All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our Thriving Congregations webinar, introducing the Enduring Witness Grant Process for 2023. My name is Melissa Lopez. I'm currently serving as the chair of Thriving, and I'm also the pastor at First Presbyterian Church in Bel Air. This evening, we have other members of Thriving Congregations with us, so I'll invite them to introduce themselves, and then we will get started with a slide presentation. So Adina, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here and thank you for tuning in. My name is Adina Moulton. I am finishing up a internship with the Presbytery of Baltimore, and I've been working primarily with the Commission on Thriving Congregations on their grant process. I'm also just finished my Master of Divinity degree and am in the ordination process under care at the Baltimore Presbytery. So really great to be here with all of you.
Thanks, Adina. Karen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Garrett, and I'm a member of Knox Presbyterian Church in Baltimore, Maryland.
Thank you, Karen. Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Young, pastor at Christ Our King in Bel Air, and we look forward to working with you on all of these grants and hope that you find answers to all your needs right now. But remember, you can always come and ask us any questions later.
Thanks, Jeff. Rob.
Hi, I'm Rob Smith from Central Presbyterian in Towson. Glad you all could join us today.
Great. Thanks, Rob. And we also have Tina Coleman on the call. She's a member of Thriving, and she is at Herondale Presbyterian Church. So as Jeff said, please reach out to any of us if you have questions or would like more information. We'll also have an open time for Q&A at our next Thriving meeting, which we will get you the link to. So if you have additional questions after watching this presentation, you're welcome to join us there as well. So let's get into the presentation. For those of you who might be new to understanding who our commission is or what we do, the Commission on Thriving Congregations is tasked to offer resources that will encourage, challenge, and equip congregations in our presbytery to become spiritually alive and engaged in their communities, so that others in their communities will be drawn to Christ through their own witness. And so our whole goal as a commission is to equip and support congregations to do this work in their own communities. So one of the things we are blessed to be able to help with are these Enduring Witness grants. And these grants have come from churches in our presbytery who have closed and have gone up for sale. And so now their witness is able to continue and endure through these grants that now go out to other churches who are doing vibrant and viable work. So we've all been through a really tough time through COVID. And so many of our congregations and churches are trying to redevelop, transform, and come up with new programs and ministries that will share the witness of Christ in the world. And so the purpose of these Enduring Witness grants is to help you do just that. They're designed to provide churches with the resources to pursue this kind of transformative ministry work. This year, the grant process timeline is slightly different than we've done in the past. This year, we're holding just one round of applications for our grants this year. So our applications open today, May 23rd, and you have until July 31st to get them turned in. As part of the application, there's a lot of paperwork. So this can give you time to get all your numbers together and the project estimates so that you can turn in a complete application by July 31st. Our commission will then be making decisions about each grant application, and decisions will be announced by the end of September, and then the awards will be issued in October 2023. Now we have three different types of applications that churches can apply for. They are the Board of Pensions grants, the program grants, and the capital grants. We'll get into each of those in just a moment, but just to let you know, churches may submit only one application per grant cycle. So if you have multiple projects that you're hoping to get funding for, we invite you to prioritize which one is most important this year. You can always ask for other grants in the future. So the first type of grant is the Board of Pensions grants. And this is a grant that supports part-time ministers in a congregation in hopes that they can then become full-time ministers in that congregation. The award amount for this is based on the demonstrated need of the church and the congregation, but the average award is about $19,000. And this particular grant is a 3-year grant where Thriving commits to helping with 3 consecutive years of funding. The first year will be the greatest amount of the award, and then it will decrease slowly over the 3 years as the congregation grows and is able to take that piece on themselves. The second type of grant is a program grant, and this provides assistance for congregational transformation and evangelism through different programs and different initiatives that the congregation might have. The maximum you can request for this program grant is $35,000, but the average grant award is just over $10,000. And so we'll invite you to demonstrate how this program will be sustained in the long run, because this grant is not to go towards new staffing, but it is to go towards the program. So you'll have to demonstrate how this program can be sustained by the church in the future after the initial grant award. And then the third type of grant is the capital grant. And this is assistance for capital and building costs or repairs related to a programmatic initiative. Again, the maximum you can request is $35,000, and the average grant that we have given out is just under $15,000. In addition, the capital improvements must facilitate congregational transformation. So it's not just to maintain ongoing activities, it needs to have some sort of component that shows transformation for the congregation, its mission, and its outreach. So Adina, I will now hand it over to you for the next several slides.
Thank you, Melissa. Hello again, everyone. As Melissa indicated, I'm going to be going over the components of the Enduring Witness grant application. In many ways, this is similar to what this application has looked like before, but there are a couple of changes and additions that we'll be focusing on today. So there are 3 main components of all Enduring Witness applications. The first is a cover sheet, which provides basic information of contact information for your church, as well as a little bit of information about what grant you're applying for. The second and most likely most time-consuming part is the application questions, which gives Thriving a good sense of the work that you are doing and how a Thriving grant will help you continue that incredible mission and work and help your congregation thrive. And then the third is some attachments. And this is part of what is a little bit different from previous years. So we'll be going over this in greater detail. The first thing to note is that all applicants, no matter what type of grant you are applying for, must submit a budget for their entire church for this year. So that budget that is approved by the congregation, usually at the beginning of your year, Thriving needs a copy of that just so that we can have a better sense of how this work fits into your church's larger goals. And then program and capital grant applicants must submit a project budget using a new template that we'll be providing, and we're going to be going over that template in detail tonight. And then third, capital grant applicants are encouraged, though not required, to submit quotes for construction activities, just so that as Thriving is making determinations on how much to award capital grants, we're able to root that decision in concrete numbers that you've already done research for. Makes our decision-making process a lot more sophisticated and ultimately more helpful to everyone involved. Go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so the project budget template will be available on Thriving's grant application website. We'll be showing you what link to go to reach it. But the template itself has 3 tabs. Instructions, an instructions tab, which will go into a great deal of detail into exactly what steps you need to take, because We understand that this might be a little bit new and different and seem a little complicated at first, though it does get easier once you've jumped into it, so to speak. Then there is a project revenue tab. That is a tab that goes over all the sources of funding that will be going into your project. And then the third tab is a project expenses tab, which is everything that the funds that you'll be bringing in will be spent on to the work of your project. Be sure to complete both of these tabs. It can be really easy on forms like this to see the first one and fill it out and then forget to do the other one, but both are really important so that Thriving has a holistic understanding of what your work is going to look like. And each of these tabs lists common types of revenue and common types of expenses. This is not Thriving saying that you have to include every type of revenue and every kind of expense in your project. This is just to give you as many options as we could think of, essentially. Please do not add or change the types of revenue or expenses. And I'll show, we'll go over what I mean by this, but essentially column A in this tab. And this is because we want to evaluate all of these project budgets on an even footing so that we're able to compare apples to apples and evaluate all these projects, fairly. And then the nice thing about this template is you will not have to do any math yourself. You just input the numbers and they will automatically calculate. If something happens where that is not happening, just because downloading forms can make things get a little wonky, reach out to us and we'll fix it, but you should not have a problem with it. Next tab, please. Okay, so project revenue. This is the first tab that we'll be talking about, and we'll be talking about two different types of revenue. One is committed funding. So this is funding you already have or know you will get for this project. So for example, if your church has decided to apply $10,000 of its endowment to a new initiative to redesign your sanctuary to be more accessible, that is committed funding. You've already said that you have this money, this is where it's going to go. If you have another grant that is going to be contributing to the same project, that would also go here. If you've gotten the grant, you will be receiving that money. Potential funding is funding you are trying to secure that has not been confirmed. So let's say that you are submitting another grant application to a local foundation, and you submitted the application or you are planning to submit the application, but you've not heard back yet. This will go under potential funding. Similarly, if you're planning to launch a crowdfunding campaign, this would also be, but you haven't done it yet and you haven't gotten the money yet, this would also be in potential funding. Please do not list your Thriving application in this column. That will just make the numbers a little bit harder for us to read as we're evaluating them. And this is what the project revenue slide looks like. So I have some examples here of what a potential project revenue tab could be like. So you see in this example that this imaginary church has already received $10,000 in individual donations for this grant and $1,000 in events income. So let's say they ran a bake sale to get funding for this project. That would be events income. And then potential funding, they might be hoping that by launching this event, they will make a little bit of money. So that'd be a program income line. And then they have submitted $20,000 in grants, but don't know if they've received it yet. And then I will say as well, the instructions for this tab go into what these different categories mean as well. So if some of these look a little confusing, that's okay. There's more information. Okay, next tab, please. Yeah, and we can move forward. One more.
Sorry.
You're totally fine. Okay, and then project expenses.
Wait, hang on.
Yeah, I think things might have gone a little out of order. I think if you go to
Okay.
the next,
Is that the right one? Okay.
go one more. This is where the things got out of order. We apologize. Okay, so project expenses. So this is the counterpoint, as I said before, where you will say how you would spend the money that you would get from Thriving itself, and then any other funds that you're applying to this project. So Melissa, if you could go back to slide 15. So you can see here the different categories that we're asking you to list. The budget item, this is the column that is pre-provided. So we ask you not to change that. So again, we can compare apples to apples. But there is a section that is labeled other, understanding that while we've tried to be like as holistic as possible, there might be things that your project might need to pay for that we haven't thought of. So we ask you to, in the description section, briefly summarize a little more detail of what that budget item might be. So for staff and benefits, you might be asking to cover costs for some part-time youth ministry coordinators. And so you can provide an overview of what that looks like, for example. And then the last two columns are the request amount and the total cost. The request amount is what you are asking Thriving to fund. And the total cost is how much the entire project will cost, including Thriving's grant. So let's say that you are asking Thriving for a $10,000 grant, but your entire project is going to cost $50,000. The request amount details how you will spend the money you get from Thriving and just Thriving. The total cost describes how you will be spending all of the money you receive for that project. Okay, we can go to the next slide one more time. Oh, you can go back to, thank you.
Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I put these in the wrong order, so this is totally on me. So we've gone over a lot of this already, but just to reiterate, it's really important to describe, to give us a little bit more context into what you are going to be spending this money on in the description section. These do not need to be novels, but just to let us flesh out and have a better understanding of your project. The request amount, again, is the total you're asking Thriving to cover. So again, only what is in this grant, not in the entire budget. The total expenses in this column, this will be cell C11 in this Excel sheet, should equal the request amount listed in your application. In other words, in the application form, you're going to be asked, how much are you requesting from Thriving? Say it's $10,000. The total in cell C11, this total request amount should also be $10,000. It'll be very confusing if it's $15,000, but it's listed in other parts of the application as 10,000, for example. Total cost is, once again, the total amount your entire project will cost. We understand that for some of you, Thriving is the only commission that or funder that you're asking for money for. So we understand that for some grants, the request amount will be the same as the total cost amount. So don't panic if that is the case. But there is a reason why we're asking you to enter those numbers twice, and it's again to allow for this apples to apples comparison. And then finally, applicants are encouraged to include an indirect costs line item in their budgets. And an indirect cost line item essentially says, we know that nothing ever goes quite to plan. And so it can be really helpful to have a line item that covers costs that will still be incurred by a project. So let's say if you are starting a new program, you will still need to pay for someone to run payroll on salaries, or to, help keep the building clean after you finish with an activity. Or there might just be an unexpected cost that you're not anticipating. This can all fit into something that's called indirect costs. And we limit how much that cost can be. So indirect costs can total 15% of your total ask. And so if you're requesting $10,000, I believe that would be $1,500, would be 15% of your total costs. And I say this just because it's something that especially newer people who are asking for grants might not have heard of, but is a really helpful and important part of making your fundraising work sustainable. Okay, next slide. Okay, and then submission instructions. Please submit your applications through an online form at the link found here. This slide deck will also be shared out, so don't feel like you have to quickly write this down. The cover letter and budget templates will also be found at this link. And as a reminder, the application deadline is July 31st. Unfortunately, we won't be able to accept applications submitted after this deadline. Those will need to be considered next year. And then email Melissa at the email listed here with any questions or concerns that emerge as you're preparing your application. And please note that all questions on the content of the application, and this includes the budget template, must be submitted by July 24th to make sure that we have time to get back to you with answers. Thank you all.
Thanks, Adina. The final step of the process for these grants is the project reports, and this happens approximately 6 months after your grant funds are issued. We will be asking you to submit a report describing how the grant funds were used, and then also what was achieved through the grant. So how did it go in your congregation? What things worked? What went well? Our commission will be sending out additional information about completing that report approximately 1 month before it's due. If your project is ongoing past 6 months, we will also ask you to submit a 1-year report to describe the rest of the project. And we realize that sometimes project timelines don't go according to plan. So there is flexibility in this. Don't feel like if it's not done at 6 months, you're going to be in trouble. But we do encourage open communication between the grantees and the commission so that everyone can be on the same page and make sure we're all together. And this report or reports, in case it goes beyond 6 months, must be submitted in order to be considered and eligible for future funding. So again, if you have a couple of different types of grant requests you're looking at, if you get one this year, you need to make sure your reports get submitted so that next year you can apply for a separate kind of grant. So thank you all so much for joining us and watching this webinar. We're really excited about the projects that are going to come out of our presbytery through each of you and through all the creative ministries that you are doing programmatically or through your building or through helping your pastor become full-time. With that, I'll bring us all back up and thank you for being here this evening. Please let us know if you have any questions. All of us here on the screen are happy to answer. In addition, feel free to email me with any questions or come to our Q&A at our next Thriving meeting. Thank you all for being here tonight. Bye-bye.